Okay, here we have a Pioneer CT-20 cassette deck. It has no overcurrent protection in it from the factory. I had just taken this orange wire off this post right here, and I cut a piece of 16 gauge red wire, and we're going to run it from here over to here, back with a zip tie, and we'll put it down here. And this is the fuse block we're going to use. And this, I believe, could be a shock hazard if the windings get hot enough from these rectifier diodes shorting out in the power supply. If this gets really hot inside, I believe the windings can melt through the plastic and create a shock hazard, putting voltage into the metal frame of this transformer, then into the chassis. And it could also be a fire hazard if the line cord gets hot enough and shorts out outside the unit. So we're going to put our fuse in, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so we'll take our red wire here. We'll strip a little short piece of it off. It's 16 gauge, but I'm going to strip it in the 14 gauge hole so I don't lose the strands. I'll take and twist the strands together, dip them in the flux there, put some solder on my iron, and I'll tin this piece of wire. Okay, so I'll take our wire, I'll put it in the hole here, like this. I'll use the wider pliers here and shape it into place. I'll use the soldering wire to scoop out a little flux, and I'll put some on here on the top, and I'll put some down on the bottom. I'll put some solder on my iron. My iron is real dirty, so I'm going to clean the tip. Okay, I'm putting some solder on the tip of the iron there. I'm going to heat the terminal and the wire. It's kind of shallow, so I'll put a little more on. There's a nice clean solder joint. We'll turn it over and look at the bottom. I'll let that cool a minute. It filled in the hole really nice. Okay, so now we can take and go on this side. We'll clip this off here. I'll take my pliers and shape it down into place there. Take the solder, the flux, put some on the top, some on the bottom. Put some solder on my iron. Come up, I'll heat both the terminal and the wire. It didn't fill the hole, so I'm going to put some more solder in. This is a smaller wire. So there, the hole is all nice and filled. I'll let that cool a minute. And I'll turn it over and show you the back side of it. The back side of it's a nice, clean, full solder joint. So this will fit down in here like this. I'll try to see if I can slip this red wire up through the plastic sleeving here. It might fit. If it does, that would be nice. That way I won't need to use zip ties. Yep, it fits right up in here. And I'll screw that down right over here. So we'll cut this about right here. Okay, so we can strip this here, pull the insulation off. Okay, now I'm going to untwist these strands here because I don't want them twisted, because I'm going to be, see this post here? I'm going to be going around this post. So I'm going to take my pliers, bring the wire around that post, and we'll push that down all the way flat. I go with the wide pliers here. I'll make sure that it's a nice tight wrap there. And all the strands are down. I'll take some flux, put it around there. Okay, so I'll put a little solder on the iron here, and I'll get it warmed up a little bit. There's a nice clean solder joint there. Now that I'm done with my iron, I'm going to tin it. So when I store it, it doesn't go bad on me, the tip. Okay, so now we can put our wires back down into this. I'm going to slide this back. That's going to fit right there. But I want to bend these terminals up so that they are up away from the metal chassis. Okay, so we can put all these wires back into this little tie here. Okay, we'll put our screw in through the fuse block here. We'll put our nut and washer underneath. You know what? I lost that bugger. You know what? It's easier to grab another one than it is to go for a wild goose chase looking for the one you lost. I'll make sure it's nice and straight. Okay, I'll take my screwdriver, put it on the top. I'll tighten the nut with my nut driver on the bottom. Okay, so now we can get a zip tie on the orange wire coming up. Where do I want to put it down here? Maybe if I put it down here, it'll look a little neater. And we'll clip our little piece off. We'll close our flux up. There's a close-up of the fuse block I put in. UL listed without any overcurrent protection. And there is the specs. Okay, so here is the filament in the fuse that we're putting in. And this is the filament of your standard house fuse. This is a 15 amp. And this is a 20 amp. So if some of the components here in the power supply, like the rectifier diodes, the power capacitor, the voltage regulator, if it shorts out, it will melt and blow this half amp fuse much quicker than it would take to blow a house fuse and possibly start a fire in your house. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this little fuse in. There it is. Okay, so we'll finish this off by putting a little Loctite on this nut so it doesn't loosen up. And we'll get some around the base there. And there is the front of the unit. And there is the heads.